When my career really kind of started peaking up, it was around GCSEs, and it was really hard.
Right. Okay.
So I took a lot of time out of school, because competitions, they're not just in half term or summer holidays, they're throughout the whole year. So, I didn't drive back then. So my mum was doing a lot of like driving me here, then driving me there, then coming home, and I was doing school in the car and completing work on the way to training and things like that. So,
right. Would you say you had a normal childhood growing up in the sport that you're in?
No, probably not. Kind of looking at, friends and family members and my brother and everything, and kind of the way their lives were essentially was very different to mine. I remember one time I was out, wasn't late, it must have been 9:30, and I got a phone call from my coach who had seen a picture that had been uploaded of me out with friends on Facebook, and he rang me and he was like, "Get to bed, like what the hell are you doing? You've got a flight tomorrow morning." And I was like, oh God. I remember my mum ringing me, be like, "Your coach has just rung me, do you want me to come pick you up?" And I was like, God, actually, yeah. So there was a point that I was like, I might lose my leg. And then, you kind of look at the broader picture and you're like, is this really worth it then? Like, what am I doing this for? Like, I'm putting my body and my mind and everything through such tough times, and is it ever be the same again? And my parents sacrificed huge amounts for me. They said they weren't, they didn't spend that much time together, but they're now both retired and living their life happy, and so they're all good now. There is a light at the end of that tunnel. Worth it. There are a few events that I haven't done yet that I would like to do, Olympics being one of them. And if that's on my cards and that happens for me, then I'll definitely be able to go like, okay, now I'm done with that.
So it's a huge honour today to welcome an incredible lady who's represented the British children's skiing team, progressed to the British Alpine team, and also completed in the European Youth Olympic Festival. So it's with great pleasure to welcome Darcie Mead to the show to share her secrets and sacrifices of her professional skiing journey so far, and much more. So Darcie, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm really looking forward to this and excited to be here, and it's an honour of mine, so thank you.
Oh, thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much. So before we start, Darcie, just so the listeners can get to know you a little bit better, my children have come up with 10 quick fire would you rather questions, and today we have Mason who's going to be asking the questions to you. So I'm going to pass you over to Mason, and I'll let him start the show off. You ready,
Brilliant.
Mason? Okay.
Gosh, fire away.
There you go, dude.
Would you rather game or read a book?
Game.
What's your favourite game?
Oh, it's tough. I mean, big geeky, quite like Sims, but I don't mind a bit of COD, a bit of Call of Duty.
Right, okay. What's your favourite one, dude?
My favourite's FIFA. Well, FC24 now.
Have you got the new one?
Yeah, he badgered us to get it. I think before it came out, so you've got that, haven't you already? So I think he got it like a week earlier or something. But he loves
good for you.
So,
good for you.
So yeah.
Would you rather win $1 million or earn $1 million?
Earn $1 million.
Would you rather have a takeaway or eat out?
Oh, a takeaway. Do you like a takeaway? What's
your favourite food?
Oh, I do love an Indian, actually. It's a guilty pleasure. I love an Indian. I'm a big foodie, so I love pasta. Pasta's probably my favourite meal that I make myself.
Right, okay. What would your favourite food be, Mace?
Probably fish and chips.
Fish and chips, nice.
Good traditional fish and chips.
Would you rather explore the ocean or space?
I think space. Sea scares me. What would you rather do?
I'd probably do the ocean.
Oh, cool.
I think I'd be scared of both.
They're both quite daunting, so.
Yeah.
Would you rather wear Nike or Adidas?
Oh, that's tough. A lot of my kits Adidas, but I do love Nike shoes. A lot of my trainers are Nike, so tough on that one. I don't think I could pick.
Would you rather own a Ferrari or Lamborghini?
Lamborghini all the way.
Ooh, no hesitation there.
Yeah, love Lamborghini. Absolutely love it.
Would you rather dine with Michaela Schifrin or Lindsay Vonn?
Ooh, probably Lindsay Vonn, just because I think she's been through similar things that I've been through with it, like regards to injuries.
Cool.
Would you rather listen to pop music or R&B?
Ooh, depends what mood I'm in, but I guess probably more pop music, I suppose.
Do you know when you're training, would you have like a certain, say, playlist that you'd kind of train to? Would it be more kind of upbeat or kind of
Yeah.
hip hop art? Yeah.
Yeah, more upbeat music. I mean, I do quite like a bit of hip hop if I'm doing a heavy lifting session,
Yeah.
you know, because it's a bit more of a bass and stuff. But
Cool.
long endurance sessions, I do like a bit of house music, that sort of thing.
Cool.
Would you rather watch an action film or a romantic film?
Action.
Would you rather win a gold medal in the World Champs or the Olympics?
Ooh, that's really tough. Obviously, both would be nice. But I think, I mean, I love to win a world championship gold, but I think for people that maybe aren't so much into sport, like Olympics is much more reputable, and you know, a lot more people are much more like, oh yeah, I know you won Olympic gold. Wow, you must be good, you know. I suppose an Olympic gold is the big dream.
Super. Very good. Right. Thank you very much for that, Mace. Are you gonna
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
All right. Thank you very much for that, Mace. Okay. Right then. So let's begin. So as you know, the podcast is to shine a light on the secrets and sacrifices all families go through to allow their children to become elite level athletes, and that's something really close to our hearts with having 4 children currently on that journey. And was one of the reasons that we wanted to start the podcast, because we wasn't sure whether we was doing something wrong as a family, because we were finding it really tough with regards to managing the time for the children when we're, say, taking them to competitions or when they're training, if they were kind of competing abroad. And we didn't realise or think it was going to be this tough. So we just wanted to ask the question to professional athletes to see whether we was doing something wrong. So my first question is, could you take me back to your childhood and your earliest childhood memories when you was living at home, and what family life was like back then for you?
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm really lucky actually. I had a really great childhood. I grew up in a lovely home in Surrey. I have an older brother, so I kind of always looked up to him a lot growing up, and
Okay.
I guess that instilled a bit more of the competitive edge in me, because he was playing rugby. He's
Yep.
a lad. He's 6'1". I'm only like 5'3", so I'm much more than him. But I always
Okay.
kind of wanted to, we'd wrestle, rough a tumble a little bit. So he put me through my paces a bit. But definitely gave me a strong backbone growing up with an older brother. But it was brilliant. And yeah, I think, I wasn't, I guess as a child, I wasn't overly sporty, actually, surprisingly.
Okay.
I kind of picked up school. Sorry, when I went to school, I kind of picked up the sport through that.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't, when I was younger, I wasn't, into all of the gymnastics and, running and athletics and that sort of thing.
Okay.
Just did bits and bobs here and there, kind of always school PE. I did a bit of ballet and things like that,
Yep.
just as I was growing up, with family and friends. But yeah, I wasn't overly sporty. But yeah, grew up in a lovely family, and my parents always wanted to do stuff with us, so I was really lucky.
Cool. Was your parents sporty as well? I know you mentioned that your brother was into his rugby. Did you kind of get that from your parents? Were they into like kind of sports and?
Kind of. I mean, my mum, no.
Okay.
She's never really been that overly sporty. My dad was actually a professional football player, so
Cool.
I think a lot of my competitiveness also does with my dad.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, he was a professional athlete growing up, and he was semi-pro football, so he was very much into doing sport was a good thing for us. He got an England cap, so I always kind of looked at him and that, and I thought that was amazing what he'd done. And yeah, so he was sporty, but he wasn't a skier. My mum wasn't a skier. No one in my family was a skier. It kind of came randomly.
Okay, so I did read, I think you first went skiing when you was about 8 years old, and I think that almost kind of ignited your passion for kind of skiing and like kind of the speed of the sport and like kind of the mountains. Is that where you kind of found your passion and that's what kind of started you on your journey?
Yeah, I think, growing up, there was never really anything that I was like, oh my God, I love this. I could do this every day.
Right, okay.
And, I went on a family ski holiday. I think I was about 8 or 9 years old.
Right, okay.
I thought it was fun, but I didn't think anything, crazy. I wasn't overly like, this is amazing. But I love the mountains and I love going fast. But I was very much with an instructor, following them. I came back to the UK. I joined a new school and we had to like pick extracurricular activities to do after school and stuff on a Wednesday and a Friday, something weird like that.
Yeah.
And I remember going through it with my mum thinking, oh, dance, that'd be fun. Let's do dance. And then mum was like, oh, look, there's a ski club. And I was like,
how cool.
Okay, I'll take that as well.
Yeah.
Take that and went for my first session down at Sandown Racecourse, which is only down the road from me. It's actually a horse racing place, but they have a dry slope there.
Yeah.
That was the first time I kind of had any taste of, I guess, race, because there was gates. And I remember there was this big ramp. I pushed down this big ramp, went through these gates, and I was like, yes. I was like, no one's telling me how fast I can go, telling me, how to hit the gates. No one's telling me anything. It was just like, go from this to this as fast as you can, and let's see how you get on. And I just loved it. And from there, I kind of joined teams, got scouted for the British team from there. And I was like, this is my thing. Finally, I found the thing I want to do.
Okay, so when you got into your skiing, did you miss any school for, say, skiing? Because I know we ended up the other year taking our eldest daughter out of school. She's homeschooled now, so she could pursue her kind of tennis career. It was because we was finding that because she was traveling and kind of competing, she was missing quite a lot of school. So because there was quite a lot of kind of gaps in the learning, my wife thought it a bit easier to like kind of manage her kind of schoolwork herself, so she knew where she was kind of up to. Did you miss any school for your skiing?
Yeah, a lot of school, and that is tough. Missing out on school, and I'm again really fortunate that I had a really good bunch of friends. Because it is hard dipping in and out. But when my career really kind of started peaking up, it was around GCSEs, and it was really hard. So I took a lot of time out of school, because competitions they're not just in half term or summer holidays. They're throughout the whole year. So it was really tricky, and my school really good, and I actually went to school in Austria as well. So I'd take my UK schooling work, and then would complete it in Austria. So I normally train in the morning, and then 3 hours of school every afternoon, even on the weekends. And if I was at races, we try and kind of manage it how I can. But the team I was with had some teachers, so they kind of helped to help us get along with school. But it's definitely easy, and there's a lot of sacrifices that happened with my schooling.
Right. Okay. And that kind of leads me on to my next question, really. I mean, like with our eldest now, because she is homeschooled, we can kind of manage her day around like kind of her tennis and the lessons and kind of the squads that she kind of does and are competing. When you was at school at like kind of GCSE level, what would your kind of typical day look like? Would you be training in the morning and then doing schoolwork, or how would that look?
When I'm in the UK, so I would go to school as normal. Sometimes I would have to wake up a little bit earlier and go to do a session before school, complete my normal school day, and then by the time that finishes, I'm very lucky as well that my school is literally at the top of my road, so I didn't have to travel far. Once that finished, it was then back into training and then back home for schoolwork. And on Mondays and Fridays, I did train like ski training in the afternoon. Well, sorry, in the evenings. So then that was also had to manage that with schooling as well. And it's all about a fine balance and having that time to complete your schoolwork and complete your homework. Because at the time, I definitely was like, this isn't important. Like, I'm going to be a ski racer. Like, why don't I do homework? But my coach at the time was very much like, no, school is still first, especially when I'm in the UK, focus on that, and training will come second. But it kind of, I had to work everything round, and I didn't drive back then, so my mum was doing a lot of like driving me here, then driving me there, then coming home, and I was doing school in the car and completing work on the way to training and things like that. So
right, okay. So with that then as well, would you have like, say, a specific diet that you would kind of follow? Because I know my boys now, they're just this season, they've been given like, say, diet sheets to kind of complete, and like kind of the teams were wanting to like kind of see what kind of foods they were eating and like what times they were kind of eating in relation to like when they were training or when they were kind of competing. So would you have kind of a set kind of like, say, diet plan that you'd kind of follow when you was kind of competing, or like, say, when you was at school, was you told like kind of what to eat and when to eat with regards to training?
I mean, more or less, definitely as I got older, nutrition came much more into it. And, I sat down quite a lot with nutritionists and things like that. I was very overweight as a child. So that's why I kind of wasn't very overly sporty. I found it very tricky being quite fat. So, but I knew that wasn't a healthy lifestyle. And I wasn't active enough as a kid. But as I got older, I found that actually if I was fueling my body in the correct way, how much benefit that had towards my training. So my mum was very good in kind of planning my meals of the evening and breakfast and things like that. At school, most of the time I go to the lunch canteen anyway. And again, it's kind of, as you get older, you learn more, okay, right, shouldn't probably have chips now, but there's some rice there. Let's go for the rice option instead. That'll feel better for a training session later. So I again, it's all moderation, especially as you get older, much, the body doesn't bounce back as quick as it used to, I think, being 27 now. So, I definitely think that the nutrition side of things is really important, and having the right advice on that and everything is, if you have access to that, is great, and following a balanced diet. But yeah, for sure, I didn't have that at the beginning of my career, but as I got older, I definitely.
Cool. So can you remember your first, say, wow moment in your sport? I've been asking quite a lot of the recent guests this, and we've had like a number of guests who it's something that always just kind of sticks in the mind, and they've always kind of got that vivid image of their first like kind of wow moment in the sport. I mean, we had Taj Minicon on. He's an Australian professional footballer. And his first wow moment was when he got invited to Blackburn Rovers on trial, it was. And he could just kind of paint the picture of like everything that had kind of happened. And that was the first time where it really kind of ignited that kind of dream, like kind of for him, that he wanted to become a professional footballer. So can you remember your first, like, say, wow moment in the sport?
Gosh, I mean, there's been a few moments that I have really like, they've really stuck with me. And, I've done quite a few major events now, but I think the Youth Olympic Festival for me was a big one in my career, because it was so different to anything else I'd done before. World Junior Championships and things like that, they're all major events too, but the way we were treated through the Youth Olympic Festival was totally different. We met so many people from so many different sports, and we met in a hotel in London the night before we flew out. We got fitted with all this Team GB kit, all jackets, salopettes, I had bags, I had t-shirts. I literally had a separate suitcase full of to wear, and then my normal suitcase. And it was like, everyone at the airport, it was big, like, Team GB here. And for me, I was like, wow, this is like, I felt like I'd almost made it, I guess, in a sense. And I remember doing an interview. I was only 16 years old, or 16, 17. I remember doing this interview in this Team GB polo top with all this Team GB stuff behind me, and they had a camera in my face, and they're like, this is going live on YouTube. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, I mean, hardly anyone was viewing it, but I mean, for me, I was like, this is such a big deal, and competing in that event was just it was truly wonderful, and definitely a memory I'll cherish with me. And the opening ceremony and everything, it was truly definitely that wow moment. I was like, this is next level.
Right. Okay, so with that then, would you say you had a normal childhood growing up, or was it kind of normal for, say, like yourself in the bubble that you was in say, like professional sport? Because we've had quite a number of guests on, or most of the guests that we've had on now have mentioned about not being able to, say, like go out with friends in the evening after school, or when the friends have kind of like come knocking on the door after they finish training, they're not allowed out because they need to like kind of refuel, or they may have a match in the morning, so they have to go to bed early. So would you say you had a normal childhood growing up in the sport that you're in?
No, probably not. Kind of looking at friends and family members and my brother and everything, and kind of the way their lives were essentially was very, very different to mine. Again, looking back, I wouldn't change it for anything, but for sure it wasn't the same.
Yeah.
Like you said, I was had to get to bed early. A lot of the times, in half term, everyone's planning these big half terms, going out and, spending time with everyone and throwing house parties and things like that, especially about 17, 18 years old, when everyone's starting to go out and get that buzz for clubbing and everything like that. For me, I was like, well, I've got a flight at 5 a.m. tomorrow, so no, I can't come out. And, I missed out on proms because I was like, I don't want to stay back and miss out on a week's training when I know that's going to make me better than, going to a prom. You have got to have a balance. And I've learned as I've got older about having a fine balance between working too much, training too much, and not training enough. But it was tricky. And, there was a lot of times that I missed out on spending time with a lot of my friends, and I'd have to do things slightly differently. I'd be like, okay, well, why don't we go for an early dinner at 6 p.m? Let's go out, into town near me so I can walk there, and then walk home, and you guys go clubbing after, and I'm going to get back to bed because I've got a big lifting. I've got, 1 rep max test tomorrow morning. So what I'm going to do is be hungover or, tired from before. And for me, sleep's really important. If I don't sleep, I just feel like I can't function. So I've never really been someone that's willing to stay up late and go out lots anyway. But it was hard growing up with all my friends starting to do these things and have experiences that I wasn't having because my life was totally different to theirs, which is absolutely okay. But that was the path that I chose, and I was lucky enough that my parents were there to support me to do that.
So were your friends supportive of you on that journey then? Because I know we've had a number of guests on who they've almost said that the friends were still there. However, they almost thought that they were kind of getting, like, above the station, and they were a bit kind of too good for them because they were either playing like professional basketball or professional, say, football, for instance. Were your friends quite supportive of you and kind of respected that you wanted or needed to kind of go home early? And
yeah, I mean, I had certainly had a group of friends at school that they didn't really get it, and they'd all be texting me, why are you not coming out? Or I remember one time I was out, wasn't late, it must have been 9:30, and I got a phone call from my coach who had seen a picture that had been uploaded of me out with some friends on Facebook, and he rang me and he was like, "Get to bed! Like, what the hell are you doing? You've got a flight tomorrow morning." And I was like, "Oh God!" I remember my mum ringing me, be like, "Your coach has just run me. Do you want me to come pick you up?" And I was like, "God, actually, yeah." So, at the time I was like, "Oh, this is so, it's so annoying." But like everyone was doing these things for the best. But at the time, your friends they don't see that side, and they don't understand that side of being an athlete. So for them, it was like, oh, they just thought, you're being controlled by someone, they're telling you what to do. And I was like, okay, they're encouraging me at a young age to do the right things. But, I had 2 really, really good friends who are still my best friends now, who were just amazing, and they've supported me in every single thing I've done. And honestly, I don't think I would have been able to get through everything I've gone through without them. They're really, really understanding, and they never kind of forced me. Even now, one of them, she's out all the time up in town, and she works city girl, all of that. And she's always like, "Oh, do you want to come out for Friday night drinks?" And I'm like, "I can't, I've got a 2.5-hour bike ride tomorrow morning." And she's totally cool with it. And they're really great. I think it's definitely surround yourself with good people who have your best interests rather than just what's fun in that moment.
All right, okay. So as we mentioned earlier on, from being selected for the British children's ski team and then progressing to the British Alpine team, also competing, as you mentioned, in like the European Youth Olympic Festival, and winning various kind of grand Giant Slalom events. I also read you've not always been the luckiest with, say, injuries, for instance, as I think you kind of alluded to at the start, similar to like kind of Lindsay. Because, for instance, when we was researching, we read, I think, most of the 2016, 2017 season you missed due to a meniscus tear and a tibia fracture, which kind of set you back a little. However, on returning, you had an amazing kind of start, and I think it was like the fastest Brit, doing like loads of different kind of PBs across the board and taking home kind of 2 wins. However, following on from your first Giant Slalom event, that was when you ended up having your spiral fracture. And that caused your tibia and fibia to shatter, and you ended up being airlifted. And as we'd mentioned in a previous conversation, we'd read that you obviously had like your metal rod and your 4 screws, 12 staples, 18 stitches. And so my next question is, how do you kind of cope with the kind of peaks and troughs and the highs and lows of a professional journey? Because something like that is quite kind of serious, and then to kind of want to kind of go again after that experience, it takes a certain individual, as we've kind of come to hear on the podcast. So how do you kind of personally cope with that?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I've definitely had my fair share of injuries, and I've been very unlucky with, but these things happen, and being an athlete, that injuries are going to come, and it's definitely about a state of mind and having a good mental strength to kind of help yourself through those times. But like I said before, surround yourself with good people, having your parents supporting you, friends supporting you, family there, everyone kind of around you, because it isn't, skiing is an individual sport, but I have a huge team of people behind me who help me along through that. Cool. And skiing has been such a roller coaster of emotions for me. I've had back-to-back injuries. I've had, I think, 9 surgeries in total that have all been kind of through ski related injuries. Wow. Which is just crazy to think about. But
I was going to say, from when we was researching, like myself and Mason, we was watching like a couple of the events that you'd done, and we were saying it looks absolutely bonkers. Yeah. I think like one of them, I think you had a camera, like it might have been like kind of a chest cam or like kind of a helmet one. It's just crazy. It really is, and it's no wonder that, like you said, you've had probably about 9 or so different kind of injuries with it, because it is kind of frightening kind of stuff, and the speeds that you kind of get up to look unbelievable as well.
It's definitely. I mean, I think any athlete has a sense of crazy about them, and for sure, I think I'm absolutely bonkers. Like everyone's like, "Why are you still skiing? Just stop!" Like, go be in an office, do a corporate job that's safer. Definitely there was a point with my leg injury, especially the most recent one, after I broke it, that there was a point that I was like, I might lose my leg. And then, you kind of look at the broader picture and you're like, is this really worth it then? Like, what am I doing this for? Like, I'm putting my body and my mind and everything through such tough times, and is it ever be the same again? And but I think any athlete doesn't like being told they can't do something. So when I'm told I can't do something, I'm like, well, I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna do it better than what you think I can do it. So it's hard going up and down and constantly being like on a high, like I was on a high after my wins, and I was like, God, I'm gonna, the Olympics are coming up, I'm gonna prove I am, the best Brit there is. And I sometimes don't have that fine balance of knowing how much to push myself and how hard to push my body to then also, do it the right amount, but not too much. Otherwise, injuries happen and accidents happen and things like that. So it's definitely been tough, but I think having that mental resilience, and I'm very, not to big myself up, but I think I'm very, very mental tough now after everything I've been through in regards to injuries and hardships and things like that. And it's definitely put me down a few times, and there have been times that I didn't want to get out of bed when I'm in pain, and I'm like, oh, why am I going through this? Like, why has no one else had this injury? This is so unfair. And you do think a lot of like, oh, this isn't fair on me. Like, like I said, but you just got to think there's always someone some people can't even compete in sport, and I'm lucky enough to be healthy enough to compete and do these things, and you just always got to look at the broader picture, and you're lucky to be doing what you're doing, and if you do it for as long as possible.
So I think you've kind of answered my next question. I was going to say, is there been any times where you have felt like kind of giving up, like with your spiral fracture that you had? Was there any kind of point where you did feel like kind of giving up then, or like you've said with like kind of all the athletes that we've kind of interviewed and had on the show, they have all got that like intrinsic motivation and drive and resilience to kind of succeed, and almost like you said, if someone tells them that they can't do it, they'll kind of try and prove people wrong, and they'll kind of go again. And again, with the guests that we've had on, I mean, we've had so we had Team GB swimmer Jade Elliott on, and he had a brain tumor at the age of 13. He recovered from that, and then like a year or so later, he was doing time trials for like Team GB again. And he just kept on like kind of going and going. I think recently he was 22, he was still having like say radiotherapy. He was still kind of competing. We've had George Smith, an MMA fighter. He had problems with his heart, atrial fibrillation, and basically it's kind of irregular kind of heartbeats that they have, and it's obviously it's quite kind of detrimental to people that are kind of exercising so much and putting the bodies through so much like kind of George is doing. Yeah. However, they go through the surgery like yourself, and then they come out again the other end, even like kind of stronger almost, to try and like kind of succeed. So like we said, it does take a certain individual and a mindset to want to kind of go through that and kind of go again and kind of go again. So with that, you've mentioned the kind of support network of kind of friends and family around you. Would you say your parents sacrificed to support you on your kind of skiing journey? And I know from us, with having 4 children on kind of a sporting journey, shall we say, at the moment. I mean, like our eldest, she plays tennis. She'll probably train, like say 5-6 times a week, and she'll kind of compete in like kind of different European kind of like ITF kind of tournaments and stuff that you'll kind of have to fund and stuff. And our sacrifices are probably kind of like financial as kind of parents and spending time together as a family. It feels like myself and like say my wife don't spend that much time together because we're always taking someone to a training session or to a match or traveling with our eldest to a like kind of tennis. So would you say your parents had a similar kind of journey with yourself, and say like your brother who was doing his rugby at the time?
I mean, yeah, hats off to you for doing it for 4 kids, because it's just it's amazing, and like you said, it's not easy, and sacrifices. Okay, yeah, it's all well and good me saying I sacrificed nights out with my friends and a bit of schooling here and there, but my parents sacrificed huge amounts for me. You said they weren't, they didn't spend that much time together, but they're now both retired and living their life happy, and so they're all good now. There is a light at the end of that tunnel. But yeah, I mean, again, for me, it's a huge financial burden. Skiing it's an expensive sport, and it's very, very, very underfunded. So we don't really get any funding from our federation, and a lot of people that do ski now are independently funding their own programs. So it's really, really tough, and not having that from them, or not having them in a position that they could help me to do that, I don't think I would be skiing where I am today. And I'm very, very lucky I had such a supportive sibling, because he definitely took a backseat half the time. It was like, okay, you want to go away February half term, but we've got to go to Italy because Darcie's racing. So he would come with me. He was always supportive of that, and he was brilliant, and then he went off, did uni. He ran his own business. He was all good with that, but him supporting me as well was a big thing, because I do think it is tough for siblings, especially if they're not. And I know from experiences with friends who ski and they have siblings who find it really hard, that I guess in a way they're not the center of attention all the time. And we did kind of get to a rule where we were at dinner, and I was like, we're not talking about skiing. Like, don't even talk about skiing. So we'd sit down and we'd have a complete conversation about anything other than skiing. Could be other sports, but I never wanted him to feel like he wasn't as important as I was, just because mum and dad were kind of always it was like, okay, Darcie needs to get taken to training today, but Harris he drops off at boarding school, and it was like, how can we do that? But we want to go watch her race this weekend, but he wants to go play a rugby match. So it would be kind of, I know my parents probably felt they were pulled from here to there, but they managed to make it work. And I'm like I keep saying, I'm very, very fortunate that I've had them be so understanding and had a really, really supportive sibling. And he's just amazing. I think the world of him, and I always have done. So I'm really lucky that he had to make his own sacrifices for me in my sport as well.
Right. Okay.
But how amazing that he would do that for me.
Yeah. Well, I know, and again, like we mentioned at the start of the show, and that was one of the reasons why we wanted to start the podcast, because we was probably say finishing work early or starting work early, at kind of early hours of the morning to try and get enough work in before we had to start taking the children to kind of different places, or the working day will finish early because the children will have to start training at say 4 o'clock, for instance, or 5 o'clock, depending on where they are. And we were just thinking, like, we must be doing something wrong, because we shouldn't be like so busy. We shouldn't be spending so little time together and time apart. However, when we speak to like all the guests that we've kind of had on, like you've kind of mentioned, that kind of family support network of kind of friends and family and kind of grandparents kind of helping the athlete out on their kind of journey, it's massive, and it's so important, like you said, to have that kind of network around them as well. I mean, like we had Tom Smith, he plays cricket for Gloucestershire on, he was like one of our first guests, and his dad would arrange pretty much his year of work around kind of Tom's kind of cricket kind of season. I think Tom used to play from May to October, I think it was. So his dad would arrange his kind of work around that, so he could kind of travel away with him. And then we had Anna Smith on, a professional tennis player, and her mum, like kind of every day, wouldn't have a lunch break. She'd go and pick Anna up from kind of school. She'd drop her off at the tennis courts. She'd wait there for her and then kind of pick her up and take her back to school. And I think it's all those little kind of sacrifices that you don't necessarily kind of hear and kind of see. And as a family, when you're doing those different kind of sacrifices kind of daily, you never know whether you're kind of doing the right thing or this is what it actually takes. And when you kind of speak to the athletes like yourself who are kind of there and they've made it professional, it is quite kind of reassuring to know that that is what it kind of takes. So for us as a family, it's been great to have so many amazing guests on, sharing so many stories, because it does for us as a family kind of reassure you. But hopefully as well, the idea is that it'll kind of reassure a few other parents and families as well that they are on the kind of right journey. So
it takes a village. So.
No, yeah, it does. It does, definitely true. So when you look back on your journey, kind of positive and kind of negative and kind of physically and mentally, with the injuries that you've had, would you say that kind of climbing the mountain has been worth the view for you?
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, that I wouldn't change anything. Being an athlete has totally shaped me as a person and shaped my life. And, when I eventually do retire, whether that's in a year, 5 years, however much longer it'll be, I can, proudly look back and say that I'm glad I did everything I did. Would there be a few things maybe I would do differently? Possibly. But then again, I don't think I would have had the same journey if I didn't do. And, having injuries do give you a mental resilience and a mental toughness, and I think that has helped me in whatever I do later on in my career, whether it be within sport or not. It will definitely help me to progress myself, and I hope that my story and my experiences will help someone else and help people coming from coming up through the rankings within skiing or other sports and things like that. And I know I have had lots of people reach out to me on my Instagram, young people who have been through injuries, and I'm just so glad that I can be an ear for someone, or for someone to rant and say, why is this happening to me, and be like, I've been through it, I know exactly how you're feeling. And it's just for sure it's definitely been all worth it. There are a few events that I haven't done yet that I would like to do, Olympics being one of them. And if that's on my cards and that happens for me, then I'll definitely be able to go like, okay, now I'm done. But we'll see.
Right, okay. So as the show comes to an end, we have a tradition where we ask all our guests if they have any kind of favourite quotes or philosophies that have kind of helped them to get to where they are today. For instance, we've had ones where ones like "Be where your feet are." You can't only work hard on the days that you feel good, and hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. So I was wondering if you had any kind of quotes that kind of stand out for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I love that talent one because for sure I wasn't blessed with being talented as an athlete. So yeah, no, I love that one a lot. I mean, there's lots really, but you know, I do love the one that's like knock down 10, get up 11. That's very much like, you know, what's happened to me.
Yeah,
And
like
this
that one.
one that
I've not
my
heard of that
brother.
one before. I like that one. That's
Have you
really good.
not?
No, I've never heard that one. No, I like that one. Cool.
Yeah, I think it's like knock down 10, get up 11, you know, which
Cool.
is,
Yeah.
every athlete has that, you know, you constantly get knocked back or deselected from
Yeah.
things or unselected from events, but
Yeah.
how you then recover from that makes you a better person, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's great. And, you know, my brother always says, clear eyes, full heart, can't lose. I think it's from Friday Night Lights or something, but
Right. Okay.
he always says that to me. And I love that quote as well.
Oh, very good. Okay then. So finally, what's next on your journey? I know you alluded to kind of the Olympics. Is there any kind of future, like kind of competitions or like say the Olympics that we can kind of like look out for, that we can keep an eye out for you?
Yeah, I mean, so I resume my training on snow in 2 weeks,
Wow.
and then my race season will start in November. So
Okay.
it'll just be more competitions for now.
Yep.
There's no major events really this year. There's you know, European Cups and World Cups that hopefully I'll be competing in. Main goal for me this season is to remain healthy throughout the whole season,
Yep.
enjoy it. If I'm in a really good position at the end of the season, then I'll be really looking towards 2026, where there'll be World Championships there. And then following on from that will be the Olympic Games. So
Wow.
Milan Cortina. So that's that's my big goal at the moment. But for me, with injuries, and I think for any athlete, it's always important. Okay, have the long-term goal, but still have the short-term goals to look at, and you know, take every season as it comes. And so there's a few things I want to accomplish, but it will definitely be a play it by ear thing for now. But hopefully this. I'll be able to continue the season well, kind of pick up where I left off last season, and you know, end the season in first ranked in Britain, hopefully in 2 disciplines, just one, and then continue on from that.
Oh, very well. It'll be definitely be a journey that we'll be looking out for and following, and we'll definitely be keeping in contact with you to see how you're getting on. So Darcie, thank you so much for being a guest on Elite Children: A Family Portrait, and I'm sure the listeners and the viewers at home can definitely see they're not alone in raising elite level children. And over the past months, as we've said, we've been overwhelmed by the professional family to come out and share such motivating and inspiring and resilient stories that can inspire us all in our daily lives. So thank you so much for adding to that today.
No, thank you very much for having me.
Good luck with all your training. As you mentioned, we'll keep our fingers crossed that you keep injury free. Keep up the amazing work that you're doing.
Thank you.
And I'm sure with a mindset and a personality like you've demonstrated so far, anything that you do will be a huge success. So Darcie Mead, thank you so much for being such an amazing guest on Elite Children: A Family Portrait.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
No problem at all. Thank you, Darcie.